So this is a monopod. This is actually one of the cheaper constructions. This one's made apparently by Canon. I don't know if Canon actually made it, but you'll notice it has a small ball head on the top, so I can unscrew this top thing right here. That's something that you're going to want. But it's also small, and this is going to fit into my luggage pretty easily. There are 4 sections. The more sections that you have, the smaller it's going to fold up. And this one's made out of aluminum. The higher end ones are made out of carbon fiber. And so, like if you go to an NFL football game, you're gonna see the photographers there using some really, really nice monopods, really thick, sturdy ones. Monopods have certain specific advantages over tripods. There are some disadvantages, which are obviously instability. Okay, this is just one leg standing in the sand, and you're gonna have some lateral movement, but it's still going to support the weight of the lens. Monopods are best if you need to stay light and you're going to be changing your position a lot. Monopods are cheaper. This one costs 25, 30 bucks. And I do recommend buying the cheap monopods when you're first getting started, because there's really, they're usually gonna get the job done. Unless you have like a 400 or a 600 millimeter zoom lens, you're gonna need a really sturdy one. Okay, so here I am, I'm shooting, boom, boom, boom. So now I'm fumbling with this to get it set up. This is the problem with tripods, is every time that you pick it up and move it, you have to kind of readjust everything. So you ground change it again, gotta change it. And that can be a pain after a while. If you're shooting and you're constantly changing your position, tripod probably not the greatest thing. So something that's better about a monopod is that there's no required change up when you change your position. So when I pick this up and move, I don't need to make all these changes in the tripod or the head itself. I can lean like this. Monopods are better for sports shooting because there's going to be a smaller footprint, and they're lighter. It's easier to pick up and move like this. You only have one leg to worry about, so if you need to change your height or your angle, you can get down, it's no problem. So it's really more of a mobile way of shooting instead of using a tripod. You don't have the same stability, but all sports shooters are pretty much using monopods. I don't think I've ever seen a tripod for a photographer on a sideline of a football game. A really unique type of stabilization system for your camera is something called a Joby GorillaPod. They come in different sizes, and there are some knockoff brands, but I do recommend buying the original because they seem to be a little bit more sturdy. These are these flexible legs that have kind of like rubber rings on them, and they're going to allow you to set up the camera low to the ground like as a tripod, but they're really super useful for hanging the camera on things. So if I was to hang this camera on some bamboo, it would be no problem at all. I usually have a set of these in my car just in case I need an emergency tripod. And so for 30 or 40 bucks, it's a pretty good system. I don't use it quite as much as I used to, but when I was doing my 365 project, I was using it all the time because it would allow me to hang and position my camera in very unique places. And that's a Joby GorillaPod. It just screws into the bottom of your camera. It's like this. With the introduction of DSLR cameras that shoot video, we have to take a look at a fluid tripod head. Now, these professional heads, and this isn't even really a great one, it's kind of one of the cheaper ones, but a lot of people will go to Walmart and they'll buy these $35 or $60 fluid heads and go out and try to shoot video on there, and they can't really understand why they're not getting professional results. A huge part of that has to do with the type of video head that you're using. Now, a good fluid head will have several features, and they're really not that much more expensive. We're talking about maybe $200 and up. So the question you probably have is, what is a professional feature on a fluid video camera head? And I'm going to point those out to you real quick. Probably the first thing is the number of locks and tension controls. And when I say locks and tension controls have to do with the amount of resistance when you're panning or when you're tilting. You can control how much resistance you have. So here's a tension control knob. There's another one right here, tension control knob. Locks, here's a lock right here. allow you to lock the camera down. So when I turn this lock over, see, it doesn't want to budge. It's another great feature that you want to have. Typically, the shoe adapter or the base plate adapter is going to be made out of metal. It's going to be really, really strong. It's not going to be flimsy. It's not going to break easily. Safety lock right here. So once this goes in and it snaps shut, this isn't going to fall out. It's just a safety measure for your camera. Safety lock is usually on the other side. So once you turn this safety lock here, this plate isn't moving. So those are some of the main differences, is the locks and the tension controls. A good fluid head will have a bubble level, so you can line it up evenly. That's not a really good way to measure because a lot of the cheap fluid heads also have a bubble level. Something that I like is an adjustable handle. So depending on how big of a camera you're using, you can adjust where and how the handle works. In any event, probably one of the most important features is that you can swap the head out, okay? This is really important for repairs if something on it breaks, or if you want to swap out with a ball head or a photography head. What that means is you can buy one set of legs and then swap out the actual head. Now, another question I get is, why would you not want to use this for still photography? It's a great question. You can use it for still photography, and I know a lot of people who do. The problem with a fluid head is, even though we can pan and even though we can tilt, we cannot kind of rotate it on its axis like this, like you can with the ball head. And so that's something with photography, especially if you're shooting macro, if you're doing a lot of close-up work. In fact, for everything, there's a lot of this that's involved. And so that's one of the main functional differences is you can tilt and you can pan, but you can't rotate on the axis like that. In any event, those are the main differences between a fluid video head and a regular tripod head. It's the locks, tension controls, and the ability to adjust the resistance of your motion.